I believe in my heart of hearts that I have accomplished what I set out to do for West Virginia. I have made one of the toughest decisions of my life and decided that I will not be running for re-election to the United States Senate. But what I will be doing is traveling the country and speaking out to see if there is an interest in creating a movement to mobilize the middle and bring Americans together. To the West Virginians who have put their trust in me and fought side by side
so this is,
to make our state better.
Well, this was the last chance that Democrats had to hold a majority in the Senate, and the Senate Democrats in the upper chamber. This was their hope, and now Manchin's saying that he's not going to seek re-election in 2024. Whoo-hoo. Welcome back to the program. Top of this third hour. Dana Loesch here with you this Friday. You can listen coast to coast. You can stream the radio program as well. YouTube, Facebook, Channel 347, Direct TV. And he announced this yesterday, post our broadcast yesterday. They're going to flip this seat in West Virginia. Because let me just explain here a little bit. So in West Virginia, this was a state. I think what Trump took this in 16, was it plus 12? Took again, I believe, in 2020. Manchin is a Democrat, and a lot of people wondered, well, how he's very similar to Beshear in Kentucky, where you get these more moderate Democrats who, yes, they vote with Democrats. I mean, I completely agree with you. But the way that, remember, everything's decided in the margins, the way that it's viewed is that, okay, so he's a moderate Democrat. He's going to vote this way on some things. And, you know, he looks like he's pretty even keeled. He wasn't a nutty Democrat. Like Beshear's not a nutty Democrat. At least, you know, they may, again, the policies, and that's one thing, but that's not how they appear to voters. And with Manchin, there were a lot of things that he did go against his own party in the Senate, energy being one of them. But yet when he was compromising on some of this EV stuff, that made a lot of voters in West Virginia mad. And it started really affecting him in the polls. There's a lot of discussion as to whether or not he was even going to, if he would be able to win re-election, which I think it would have been, I think it's his to lose. And I think really to figure out what this means and what he's going to do in the future, you have to look at I think you have to look at his popularity in West Virginia as kind of the Rosetta Stone of this, right? So if he doesn't have a shot in hell of winning re-election, then he can just go ahead and step aside and then try to, if he's made his base mad enough that he's not going to win re-election, he can, you know, try to ride his name nationally, perhaps. But I don't think that translates into running for office, because if he doesn't have the chance of winning his seat in Senate, if he can't win it in re-election, there's no way in hell he would be able to successfully run for president. I just don't think that you can overcome that, because that narrative in your own backyard really is magnified, and that will become the narrative for his campaign nationally were he to run. But I don't necessarily think, and I disagree with some folks, because I think the polling is a little bit, I think that it's kind of his to lose. Still, he can make his voters mad, but then they look back at, you know, did he deliver for them on this? Did he deliver for them on that other issue, etc.? So he's, I mean, it looks like that seat's going to go, I mean, that seat without him, it's going to go red. I think you got Jim Justice, he's going to win the party's nomination. There's not anybody, no Democrat that's going to challenge him on that. There's no Democrat coming up in the primary. They've had Manchin there for so long, so that seat's going to go red. So that'll be a seat that they've lost. That's going to just absolutely destroy their ability to maintain control of that upper chamber. And they have too many other very, very competitive races that they're going to have to worry about. So the Senate looks really, really difficult for Democrats, because you've got Arizona as well, and then you have Ohio, and then you've got these purpley states that also includes Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. You know, you got these purple states. So it's very difficult, I think, for Democrats to win all of those. But obviously they're going to try. For the Republicans, it's a lot more difficult for Republicans in the House with a number of these House races. So this could very well be a thing where we may lose the House majority, but then we would win the Senate going into 24. I mean, I would rather have the House than the Senate, if I'm being honest, because it's a power of the purse. But this is, you know, it'd be great to get both, but all of that's also going to be determined as to what is happening at the top of the ticket. Now, the idea of Joe Manchin being able to challenge Joe Biden, that would be a really interesting thing, because remember, I'm going back to this LBJ. So in 1968, LBJ went on national TV, and he had also said, he was talking about division, etc., and he declared that he was not going to run again for president, and that was in March. So that shocked the heck out of everybody. So he ended up dropping out. Some people are wondering whether or not Joe Biden could pull an LBJ and kind of do the same thing, and then you could have somebody like a Manchin that would go in. Joe Manchin, I think he'd still get beaten, but I think he would be a hell of a lot more competitive than Joe Biden would be. I don't think that Joe Biden also, I don't think he's doing as poorly as the polls show. Again, you cannot, too many people on the right go back and forth over polls. I mean, they were like, well, we can't believe polls in 2016, and then you can't believe polls in 2018, you can't believe polls in 2020. You can't believe the polls only when they show you what you want to know. I mean, there has to be some consistency. And I honestly think that they're overselling you how much trouble he's in. Because one thing that we know for sure is when people go out to vote, they will hate vote. They may loathe their guy, but they will hate vote against somebody that they dislike more than their guy. You have to understand the psychology of an election and of voting. If you have, and this is how, when I say that things are going to be determined by the margins, this is how it would play out in 2024, where the general is going to be decided in the primary. The primary is the general this time around. So if you have, Trump has super high negatives with independents. He just does. I mean, there's like a whole thing. I'm just telling you what I see reflected in the polling. I'm just telling you what I see. People need to stop assigning emotional value to it. Because everything is determined in the margins in Virginia, but most particularly Ohio. What ended up happening is people will take and project the brand that they think is a Trump-led GOP, and they will project that on other Republicans. They will definitely do that if he's with him at the top of the ticket. And what they'll do is that margin that will end up determining who's. I mean, unfortunately, that's where the polls are now. I mean, the base is always going to be strong, but again, that's not where victory is determined. It's just not determined there. It's determined by the margins. That's why you have to increase your chances in the margins by having an insane turnout, which Republicans suck out loud at doing. But long story short, the hate voting, they will, if they dislike Trump more than they dislike Biden, they will hate vote, and they will vote in favor of Biden. That's just the way it is. And that's what showed in Ohio, and it's what showed in Virginia. And that's what I'm a little nervous about. His people got to figure out a way to get around that. They got to figure out a way to reset that perception. That is a campaign issue that they have to deal with. And if you want to, I want to win in 2024. I don't care how the hell I do it. I want to win. And I want all of my vulnerabilities in every single candidate in all this primary. I need all that to be remedied so that we have the strongest options going forward. And it does not help me, and it does not help America, and it does not help the cause of victory for people to stick their heads in their sand and out of ego or out of vanity say that there's nothing that needs to be fixed. That's not true. If you want to win, fix it and win. That being said, Manchin, I don't think can win nationally. I don't think he could win nationally. I think that he would be looked at as another old dude. That's why I think that they have Newsom running the shadow campaign, unless it's a Newsom Manchin ticket. Now that would be a powerful ticket for Democrats. Think about it. You have somebody who's coming from the governor's side of things. Then you have a very popular old school senator. You got somebody from the far left out in California who's going to be able to deliver that socialist base. Then you would have somebody like Manchin who could tie up a lot of those, again, the margins, independents. If you run those dudes on a ticket together, that's very interesting. Very interesting. I don't like it, but I'm telling you, there are a lot of independents out there that are going to be looking at that going, okay. It's, and yeah, Manchin's a lot older. It's like the same age discrepancy between W and Cheney. So, yeah, I mean, I think that would be I think that would be their most successful chance for a ticket for Democrats, because Manchin will not win as president. There's no way in hell not going to happen. He's too moderate for his own base. There's no way in hell he'd win. You got to remember, Democrats are just communist at this point. and you got to play to that base. That I mean, this is why you got the president of the United States being terrified to condemn Hamas practically. So this is very, very interesting, and it wouldn't be the first time that you would have a presidential contender bow out like that, but I think it's interesting.